Hi everyone, this is my video on bead strings, and after you've made your bead string, which is literally a string with 100 beads on it, and if you look, this is what I was talking about, to where you have, there's 5 solid blues, there's 5 transparent blues, together that makes the first 10, then you have 5 solid reds and 5 transparent reds to make the second 10, so that way when they are building numbers they can use the 5 Ys as well as seeing the 10s. And so bead strings are really good. They can start being used in kindergarten to where you're just counting. So it could be counting by ones and then kind of being able to put a quantity to the numbers that they're counting. Because you did the 5 Ys, it's helpful to count by 5s. So again, 5, then another 5, they would see that it actually made 10, and then another 5, they would be able to see that why it's 5, 10, 15. Because you have built it in 10s, they can also put quantity when they are counting by 10s. This helps them not just do the rote memorization of that skip counting, but also put a quantity to it. This is also a great tool when you're starting to build the numbers beyond 5. So they would see the 5 and some more, so you could either do it with 5 solid reds and the transparent, or to make it a little bit more visible, then you could use like the 5 solid red and the 1 blue. So to see that this is 5 and 1 makes 6. 5 and 2 makes 7. So just building numbers, the 5 Ys, and then when you get into the teen numbers, then they would be able to see the 10 blue and 1 more red, 10 and 1, 11, 10 and 2. So it's also really good with building this. And then when you have these, and let's say they built the 7, you can start out with if you have 7, how many more to make 10? And in the beginning this would be visible. When you think they are getting close to being fluent, then you can screen this part and say, if you have 5, how many more to make 10? And then they have to reason that there's 3 over here, because they would know that the transparent blue would have a total of 5, and if there's 2 here, there should be 3 over there. So that's another way to use it. It's also really good to building whole numbers, to where you would have kids work in the center of the string and they can push over their first quantity, and let's say it was 23, so they can have their 23, and you can put clothespins between the amounts. So here's their 23, then let's say they had to add 15 to it, and then they would have the total amount of 23 and their 15, and then they can put the quantities together. You want them to kind of visualize the quantity before you allow them to push it together and then count. So that would be how they would check it. This is also really good for rounding. So when kids are learning to round, and let's say they built 23, would they round to 20 or would they round to 30? And so they can kind of look to see which are they closest to. It's much like what I talked about with the Rec and Recs. The bead rack and bead strings work the same, and I would also use this with decimals, because this really is a great visual, to where one whole bead string would be 1. This would be 100th, because there's 100 beads on the string. One whole section of blue would be their tenths. So they would get a visual of how many tenths are in 1, as well as how many hundredths are in 1. And then they could build their decimals and add decimals as well with the bead string. So these are just a few ideas of how you can use a bead string across the grades. If you have other ideas, please share them. Enjoy!